I guess that's the obvious early question. Your injury, do you even remember how it happened? How did it happen?
Oh, yeah.
What did it feel like?
It didn't feel good. So the third down, and quite honestly, the only reason I was standing, I usually stand behind the offense. The only reason I was standing where I was standing was we got that penalty on the third down, which was not how that I've ever been told that was. So we worked that in fall camp, right? And we do it on purpose so that those guys can tell us, you cannot do this, you can do this. So anyway, I was upset about, so I don't know, I don't understand the rule. And that was 3rd and 10, it goes to, or 3rd and 9, it goes to 3rd and 4. So I've been standing right there arguing. And then I see what they're doing on 3rd down. They kind of rub us, get it complete, not a big deal. But I thought I had it braced. And the guy, Caden, knocks the guy into my feet. And I try to jump, and I'm like, all right, I got it hurdled. Well, then he hits my feet. My head goes forward as his helmet, as he's running that way. And so, and I knew immediately, I'm like, yeah, that's, or right before it hit, I was like, this ain't going to be good. And I knew right when it hit that it was, you know, you could feel the bleeding, and it kind of stunned me for a second. And I was really just trying to worry about the next play. And I think it was AJ. AJ got me sat down, and you know, of course, and then kind of a debacle there, and a little bit of, you know, talk about sudden change. I don't think you're ever really expecting that one. You know, we handled, you know, like Penn State picks, fumbles. We handled all that pretty well. But me getting knocked out, I don't guess so well. So
how many series you missed before you got back?
I think it was 2.
Missed 2.
I think it was 2.
Before you got stitched up.
Yeah. I got stitched up at halftime. They had it glued.
Oh, okay.
During the game. And I went in and probably, you know, got after them pretty good, and a little too much. So I popped all the glue off, started back bleeding, and they stitched it up. So.
All right, so on to the defense. Run defense, very good. Pass defense obviously was an issue. So talk about both the good and the bad.
So a run defense, I mean, we were 67 yards, 1.9 a carry. I think we our P&10 efficiency was like right at 80%. You know, had some negative plays, some TFLs. I mean, the pass coverage. I mean, look, here's the thing. Like I'm not like down on our guys. I don't feel any different way about them. We're not executing very, very simple things. And I think a little bit of us trying to do too much. You know, a lot of times you go into a game like this, and you know, they think they got to have 3 picks, you know, and they get all these different things published about them, whether it's PFF grades or whatever it is. It's like, do what you're coached to do, and it's simple fixes. It's easy things, you know. It's whether it's playing the ball in the air, the depth, width, execution of your drop. So I'm not like, you know, it's game 2. It's easy fixes. Like the sky's not falling. It's not panic time. You know, it's not. You know, we repped a bunch of guys, and so that's, you know, it's simple little bitty fixes, and we'll get it fixed. I mean, if we're just gonna play 2 games and shut it down, you know, make my fall a little easier, but we got a lot of season left, and so we got to play better. We got to get better, play better, execute what we're trying to do, which was a very, very limited in that game. I said that after the game, and I wouldn't change it for anything. You know, we're not gonna go in and reinvent the wheel. We're trying to do in game 2 of the season. It's just not what we're gonna do. And but we just got to execute well, just simple things better.
Biggest issue with Reed. Biggest issue with him.
The run back. Short area quickness. The ability to jump cut and be full speed off the rail, off the edge of the offense or the defense. You know, that's really hurt Cincinnati with some explosives, getting him the ball. But he's a really, really good player. Hard to see, hard to find. Can make very, very similar Deuce Vaughnish. You know, go back to those days with Kansas State, and very similar.
A little bit of that with Jaheim every day, a little bit, what he does.
Yeah, very similar. Very, very similar type of back.
Pitt's new offense, Coach Brown likened it to Texas Tech. Tech from a few years ago. Do you agree with that? And what stood out about their new offensive scheme?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. It's high up tempo. Those offenses, they rep what they do enough. I'm sure the players love it. It's easy for the players, easy throws, easy catches, easy reads, and it's just, whether it's moving fast and they dink, and then boom, here you go, or they come out firing at it right out of the gate. It doesn't require a lot, from the player, from motion shift, kind of like Penn State's a little different animal. It doesn't require a lot of that from the players. So extremely simple. They're good at what they do. And they've done a good job of just being in it for now, whatever it is, 7 months, 8 months, and they're doing a good job with it.
What's the biggest challenge defensively for you?
It's probably the tempo. It's the tempo, it's alignment. Very simple. Get your cleats in the ground and play football.
Could you talk a little bit about the process of having Rodney grow while playing and playing offense and having split time? How does that work?
Well, it's when you have a guy that's naturally a good cover guy. You just really kind of have to bring him along within the menu of what you're asking him to do, and that's whether that's by call and by fundamental and by technique, and then you just you have a baseline, which is again, he's a cover guy. He does a good job in man coverage, but you're not going to do that every time. So you have to just build his skill set as you go, but you can't put too much on him at a time. So it's just a slow process. It's understanding as the weeks go, the depth of the defense and different things that he can do, and you just got to work on it and get better at it.
He seems to be growing though in that position.
Yeah, he does. I mean, Rodney's a good football player, and we've known that the whole time since his start of his recruiting. A guy that's a multi-sport athlete in high school, and those skill sets, just great athleticism is going to show up in everything you're trying to do.
What do you see from him? Statistically, he's been much better in the second half. I think 5 of his 7 touchdown passes second half. Is it just a product of processing things and learning as you go?
No, you can tell he understands the offense, understands where to and where not to go with the ball, can extend plays with his feet, and make, with his feet, still turn around, get set, and make some downfield throws. And so you can tell he has a really good understanding of what he's doing.
What is the loss of Eddie V going to do for you guys? What impact does that have?
I mean, we're built very similar across the front and what we're trying to do. TJ's had two good first games and so we'll just keep rolling.
Jordan, how different is it with Holstein? This is his 3rd game. Last year, Jerkovich looked like 5 years. How different is it preparing for inexperienced quarterback?
I mean, they're just two totally different. I think from an experience standpoint, I think the only really big difference is when you have a true freshman. Like that's the jump where you're like, okay, this may be a little different. But you have a guy that's been in a program he's been in and played ball, and like I don't think that I don't see it as that much of an experience difference. They're just different. They're different quarterbacks. I mean, Jerkovic was a big arm guy, and this guy is still a big guy but can extend plays with his feet and still make throws downfield off of that, knows where to go with the ball, where not to go with the ball. Just two different approaches.
How do you go about preparing for tempo when you haven't necessarily seen much of it in the first couple of games?
I mean, you just work on alignment. You got to just get aligned. Again, get the call. Whatever, if there's any adjustment in that formation, get it communicated and get your cleats in the ground and play. You can't do too much. Can't try to overdo it with the call sheet and trying to slow your kids down. You just got to alignment's the biggest thing. You just got to work on it. Our offense does it at practice. We get a good shot at it. During spring and fall camp, they do it quite a bit. So, we get to work it and see it. Now you're not going to go out there for 2 hours and just tempo up and down the field, So it's just you show it to them. You know, you're watching the clocks and how the kind of the operation is, and you just very simply put it in practice and prepare for it.
They've given up 6 sacks. Is it product of one-on-one blocks? Is it gains, stunts? What have you seen that's allowed them to give up 6 sacks?
I mean, I think some of it looking at is coverage. You know, Cincinnati dropped a lot of people into coverage. I don't know, as high as probably between 80 and 90% of the game. So I don't, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's just depending on if you guess right and there's limited places to go, maybe a part of it, but haven't really gotten that far schematically into them yet.
Jordan, against tempo, did helmet communication help or hurt? Can you not use it against tempo, or does it help you use it?
I mean, again, I think that this experiment is a little bit of with the helmet communication, just kind of figuring out through 3 games what you can and can't do, and kind of how the operations differ from practice and everything that's going on. So the short answer is I don't know yet. I think that I think you're seeing a little bit of it offensively and defensively, just watching TV, that there's, I don't think people are utilizing it as much as like previously thought, just because of maybe tempo teams, and it's just not, it's not a viable investment to go into. You know, I mean, it comes from the NFL. Let's keep in mind now, both groups huddle. You know, come to the line, snap the ball with under 10 on the play clock, and everybody's talking to each other, and they're pros, and they're pros for a reason. And so, you know, that's not college football. So you can get into a deal where then you're trying to give them too much. We don't try to do that. It's just very simple communication things.
You anticipate seeing more unbalanced? I think you've had it a little bit the first 2 games. Is that just a product of what they do, or Penn State and Albany? Yeah,
I think everybody, you know, it's a copycat sport, and I think everybody probably does a little bit of it. And you know, you get in teams that do it a lot. You're going to get different flavors every week. So you very simply, again, it's unbalanced, different sets, whether it's empties, formation into the boundary. You just very simply see what you see. You line up to it. You may have a little bit of foresight on some things you may see, but you go too far down that rabbit hole, you're wasting practice time on what you really need to be getting good at.
With rosters being so different, Pitt being different, how much can you take from a really solid defensive performance on film last year, and then the other end, is there any advantage having them play a Big 12 team last week versus like a program you're kind of familiar with versus if they played somebody else?
I mean, it's film, take film at face value. And you see, I think, you know, especially in offense like this, I mean, they make that change, and they want that identity, and they bring that in, and that's who they are. As far as, you know, seeing a team you're familiar with, they change defenses pretty much their whole staff too. So it's really not, you know, it's not something that they had a different offense last year. Cincinnati had a different defense. Now they got a different, but now it's flipped, and it's not a whole lot of stock.
One more thing about pass coverage. I mean, you're not to the point where you're worried about changing personnel scheme, any of that?
No, I think the competitions that we talked about during fall camp are still competitions. You know, those, and you know, especially in that corner room with Fagan and Crandall and Spells, and getting those guys, and you see them, you know, get a couple more reps, and you know, you never know. I mean, and everybody asked me going into it, was pretty high on them. I still am, you know, but you get into games where there's no scrimmages, and nothing's controlled, and you're just not as far along on some things as you wanted to be, and I understand that. But we'll get better, and those competitions stay open. They've been very fierce in fall camp, and they'll continue to be that way.
Kids worried about you when you got cut? They look at you when you got home?
Oh, my kids? Oh yeah, they were scared to death. They come down to they were down on the field, which is way past their bedtime. But they were happy until they saw me, and you know, 6, 5, and 4, or 6, 5, and 2. They're not. What happened? Well, I can't really explain that. You don't really, the daddy got hit. Okay.
Is there any advantage too of having a coach under you that's a co-DC that you're, obviously that title makes you even more comfortable than just a regular assistant?
Yeah, I mean, you have systems in place where you don't miss a beat. Now, like I said, that's not a sudden change you practice. Somebody get knocked out on the sideline. So, yeah, and I think Shadon's first reaction was, "What?" Like, what happened? And then you got to, you just very simply call a play. And I'm trying to get the headset back on, and I'm asking, like, where's the ball? Is the ball on the hash? And they're like, sit down, you can't. So anyway, it was I probably got in the way as much as anything trying to get the headset back on. But I just knew we just had to get a call in, just get them lined up and get them playing. But again, that's not something that anybody prepares for. But yeah, you just have systems in place. Something happens. Next guy, very similar to the players. Next guy, get a play in, get them lined up. Call. Is it the perfect play? Is it a good play? Who knows? Well, I mean, you hope so, but I mean, it's just get it in and move on with the game.
Do you ever have that or a fellow coach on a team you were at before happen before? Anything like that happen with you in your career?
No, I don't. No, other than Buddy Stevens getting in a fight with an official on last chance shoot. That's I don't know that's for the world to see out there, but that was the only thing closest to it.
Consider wearing a helmet this week? Consider wearing a helmet this week?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you look at it, it's I had a hat on, and again, if my feet if I'm not falling forward, I think I'm able to brace myself. But I thought the hat, the brim would protect me a little bit, but the top of those face masks, the round piece, he just caught me flush, bam, So no, I don't think I will, but if it happens again, then yes, absolutely.
Jordan, I guess bummer about Eddie, but are you excited to see what Redwood and Russell and guys like that can do kind of in expanded roles I haven't enjoyed before? Yeah, and I mean, I think with both of those guys, I think that when again, it's game 3 and you're starting to get in a rhythm, but you go back to the Dukes Bowl, and those are two guys that really stood out in that game. So, excited about what they bring, we're a little different on some things than we were in that game as new season. So they're adjusting to new roles and maybe some play in multiple positions. So I'm excited to see them. You said you're kind of built similarly across the front, but the players are different as far as like skills and strengths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you expect to see something different out of the positions, or what you may try to get out of them, even with just their strengths in there as opposed to Eddie being in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always do things that play to the player's strengths. Now you're not gonna it's not like you're gonna make any schematic wholesale changes because one person that has a different skill set is down, but you may not ask them in certain things to do what that guy could do. So it's really not subtle changes, but it's not anything that's major, like a major overhaul. But I'm excited to see them.
Across the board, you had a lot of players that played in, I don't want to say critical, but when the game was still being contested. A couple Spurs, Nate Gabriel on the D-line, obviously corners, things like that. How much then does that carry into this week? What will that competition be like in determining who's out there first or most this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, you go back, you look at the film, and you see whether it's things that have been improved or need to be improved, and then you carry over to practice, and you make those calls throughout the week of the practice because the competition now carries into the 3 days during the middle of the week that you practice, and especially if you're doing some good on good stuff, which is just the same as game light. So you get to see that, and that's a part of what it's going to be with this group is there's a lot of competition. Some guys need more reps than others, but as those reps come, you evaluate them and you say, all right, well now instead of these amount, now he's ready for this, or he's ready for an expanded role in a substitution package, but we'll see.
You mentioned the penalty. before you got hurt. Did you get an explanation? Is Trey making a check call? Is that what it was? What was the explanation there?
Let me see if I can do this within how I'm supposed to. The way if you look up the rule, the way it's explained to me is it's termed as a simulated snap count, which means moving toward the ball, barking at the ball. So LSU gets flagged for the same thing. And if you slow the film in the first game that I referenced before, if you slow the film down, the linebacker moves his head as he's doing that. Okay, I get it. There's not many snap counts anymore that are move. Set hut, set go, whatever. I get it. I'm not arguing that. But there's none of that in that. And so we do that in off season, and whether it's spring or fall camp. We do that with officials around, and so then we get feedback on whether what we're doing is not correctly done the way it's supposed to be done, or whether it's legal, and that's what I've been led to believe that we were. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. If I know we're knowingly breaking a rule that we're going to get penalized for, I'm not going to do it. I'm not stupid, but that was not, and the explanation was simulated snap count. So if we clearly define what that is, and if it's just simply saying the word move, then I guess we're all good. That's what we've been doing. We've been doing that as long as I've been coaching in this defense. And so I guess I was misunderstood what the exact rule was. And so we'll correct it and move on. It's not a big deal.
So that's the call, obviously, to tell the defensive line to shift if they're moving.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, that's an example. I mean, but.
Is there a safe word? Are you asking, hey, what's the safe word? We can say it's not going to be.
It is, what it is. Maybe that didn't sound like complaining.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Yep, thank y'all.